Hi, this is Kathy Goodwin, and today we're going to talk about something you rarely hear discussed: how to skip step one of your career change. The traditional three-step process is introspection, information, and installation. It's rarely presented in these terms, but that's what it amounts to. Introspection means that you go into your own head, your own background. You delve into questions like why, who am I, what am I good at, what do I want to do. Information means that you're out exploring and trying to identify options where supposedly the qualities you discover through introspection will fit into satisfying careers or jobs. Installation means that you're successful. You have identified a career or a job, specifically a job when you're truly successful, that is a match for what you discovered through the introspection phase. This sounds really good, except for one thing. It rarely happens like this. If you talk to people, they rarely go through these steps in this sequence. It's usually a whole different kind of pattern. The problem usually is that you get too much into introspection. When you introspect, a lot of times you're encouraged to focus on fear. In fact, I have seen programs where you're supposed to look at the fear and say, what are my fears? How will I overcome them and deal with those directly? You also are encouraged to look at your talents and your passions and identify what you can bring to the table. What do you really, really want to do? And the problem there is a lot of times you won't know what your talents and passions are as they relate to jobs until you've gotten out there and done some exploring. The worst part is that you're on the couch, metaphorically and often literally. And I've been there. I've been in programs way back when career strategies were new, just back when the first edition of the Parachute came out, we were all encouraged to fill out questionnaires about what do you want on your tombstone, what would be an ideal day. And that is so much fun. You can spend lots of time introspecting and never get around to applying it to a real career. I've had clients who said, well, can I have more exercises? I want to do more. That's before I got rid of the introspection phase for the most part. And when you stay on the couch, it is so comfortable. What you really should be doing is action, taking action. Action creates awareness. It creates awareness not only of what's out there, but awareness of who you are. As you explore opportunities, you become aware more of what you want. You say, I never thought about that, but that really is a fit. It builds momentum, and that is probably the single most important part of action. Once you get out there and start moving, it's easier to do it. The hardest part is going from the couch, the introspection phase, to action. It reminds me of the time that I was working out in a gym in New Mexico, and we had one of those instructors and gym owners who was old school, the kind who got into gyms by boxing and fighting and things like that. And he said, when people say, what is the hardest part of working out? It's opening that door. And that is absolutely true. Once you're in the gym and you're working out, you're fine once you get used to it. The same thing here. Once you're out doing things, you get a momentum going and you keep doing it. You get a pattern of activity and you're comfortable with it. Finally, it increases confidence. So if you're talking about fear, instead of focusing on the fear, you'll find that as you do things, you'll feel good about yourself and you'll begin to be aware of how strong and how effective you really are. When you say, okay, I talked to 6 people this week, or I made 5 phone calls, or even I went to the library and read 3 books. That's better than staying on the couch and doing nothing. You'll feel really good about yourself because you got out there and did things. And as most important, it will reduce fear, because if you're busy and you're confident and you're acting, you don't have time to be scared. But we're not talking about just any action. I'm not saying go run in circles. I'm talking about purposeful action. And that means establishing benchmarks. So you say to yourself, okay, where will I be after 10, 20, or 30 meetings or 30 steps, whatever you decide to do for action? I'll give you an example. When I'm poking around on social media, I found a post from someone who said that he had been on, are you ready for this, 200 or more interviews for information. He had gone out, and that's what he was doing, to find a job. And he had a whole system, and he said he felt really good that he knew what he was doing with those interviews. The problem is, after 200 interviews, I would want to know, is he making progress? Is he honing in on a target? Has he identified certain objectives that he didn't have before? Does he know more about himself and about the market than he did? If not, he's spinning wheels no matter how much he's doing. So you want to establish benchmarks. Here's what I'm going to do after 30 days or maybe 30 interviews, depending on how you're set up and how your own momentum works. You also want a plan B. Let's say you go out on as like this guy, you have 200 interviews and you're still looking. That may be a sign that it's time to do something differently. So I would recommend before you start, have your plan of action, but also have your plan B that you've got on reserve, and maybe you're doing some things towards that. So plan A might be to get a job in a company that allows you to do certain things, and maybe I have certain processes that I follow to get you started. But plan B might be starting a business. It might be being a professional dog walker, something as simple as that. My dog walker has an empire. She makes more now than she did in her previous career when she was a teacher, because she's built her business up slowly but surely. But that could be a plan B. It doesn't have to be dog walking. It could be going back to school. It could be doing consulting. It could be maybe even scaling down your life and simplifying so you live on a lot less. Any of those are viable plan Bs. Finally, build in rewards. Say to yourself, after I've done a certain number of things, such as go on 5 interviews for information, or maybe I've talked to 6 people on the phone, or I've revised my resume this time for the end of time, or whatever is a meaningful benchmark or goal for you, give yourself a reward. And that should not be something you do all the time. You'll need, while you're on this journey, you're going to need to work out, you're going to need exercise, and you're going to need something pleasurable on a regular basis. But give yourself something special when you've done something that's hard. I mean, if it's really hard for you to interview people face to face and you've done it 3 or 4 times, hey, treat yourself to dinner, ice cream, maybe a trip to the art museum, something that you really value, that you wouldn't do ordinarily, that is really meaningful to you. That will help a lot in keeping you going. If you want to do more, I have several ways to work with clients. I recommend that you go to my website, midlifecareerstrategy.com, and check out specifically the career strategy session. A lot of times that's all you need, because what we'll do is we'll talk about where you are, where you want to be, and how to get there expeditiously. A lot of times you'll find that you can skip the steps. One reason my programs are short is that I don't do a lot of these things that sound like fun and they sound really meaningful, but they don't really get you anywhere. You could spend 6 weeks or more. Some people spend 3 months doing the introspection. At the end of that time, the career consultant has done very well, and you've got a few more charges on your credit card, but you don't necessarily feel any closer to a new goal. Now, I'm not saying you're going to find your new career in just a few months. It can take 2 to 3 or more years to make a major shift. But you'll be a lot farther along if you start out by asking, what action do I need to take? And how can I take that action? How can I measure if I'm being effective with that action? So thanks for joining me today. I look forward to meeting you on a future teleseminar, a future video, and perhaps a consultation where we'll talk about you and how you can reach your own objectives faster and more easily with a lot more fun.